G'day, guys. Welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. Today we're continuing with our 2022 AFL Season Previews. Today we come up to our 11th ranked team in our aggregate ladder. We have the Carlton Blues today. What are our opinions of Carlton this year?
We got a pretty mixed bag across the board with this one, Taz. I think half of us had Carlton making the finals and half of us didn't. So really hard to place them, I think.
I personally, I know I had them in the 8. It's a team on the rise. It was sprinkled with a bit of experience. It's a good spine for me, I would say. Really good right through down the middle. What are your thoughts, Brody? Where do you see them being this year?
Well, I think I had them 8th. And I think that they're going to be in that pack where it's like comes down to the last few games who can make that 7th, 8th spot. I think they're going to be around there again, like they've been talked about for the last few seasons. The Sam Walsh injury is a big one. That's
huge.
A big one. But I know Paddy Cripps had a bit of a off season. If he can step up back to his All-Australian best, and that's obviously huge. But I like their forward. I like their full forward and centre forward. Charlie Curnow and McKay. Well, we got Martin and Silvani in there. Like that's pretty damaging forward line if they can get the ball in there. If they can get the ball in there, that's the thing. Cerra will be an interesting one. Cerra's a good player. They gave up a fair bit for him, so you're gonna hope he performs. Yeah. I can see him winning enough games personally to be challenging for that 8th, 7th, 8th spot.
Yeah, that midfield mix for Carlton. It's obviously with Cerra coming in, it was another young gun. Really, he should be pretty important in there. But another addition, George Hewitt. There's a lot of talk that he may spend some real time in the engine room as one of a ball winning mid. And he's going to be really crucial with Sam Walsh missing at what looks like 4 to 6 weeks and probably more. I think they're going to adopt a bit of a cautious approach with him.
I think the biggest issue for Walsh is going to be sort of missing that time in the pre-season. So he's really not going to come back to anywhere near full fitness until you would have thought at the back half of the year. So that's certainly going to hurt. I really like Carlton's depth. I think their list is good. I think they've got across the park, they've got guys where if you've got an injury, you can bring in a replacement, which for a year that's going to be quite uncertain with COVID, and I think there's going to be players chopping in and out as really COVID becomes a lot more prevalent in the competition. I think that's going to be really important for you to have a good, solid, 30 plus players that you can legitimately play every given week. So I agree with BT. I really like their forward line, not just the keys, but the smalls and the running players as well. Zach Fisher is a really good small forward, and they've got guys like Owies as well that are going to run through there and play a role. So I like their forward line. I like their midfield. I think the biggest concern I have with Carlton is the back line. Obviously, Liam Jones retiring in the off-season was a bit of a surprise, and I think is certainly going to leave a hole. Jacob Wiedering obviously is a star, and I think he is going to continue to go from strength to strength and make his mark as one of the best key defenders in the competition. But they do sort of really need to find some key defenders and some depth around the back line. I think is probably my biggest concern with the Blues.
Yeah, agreed. The loss of Eddie Betts, a lot of experience they lose out of this team with their outs this year. Losing, Petrovski-Seton was there for a little bit. You got Mark Murphy, who they're losing 300 games out of. Eddie Betts as well. It's invaluable experience, really, when you look at a lot of the young guys coming through. Josh, who would you see as really taking the mantle of carrying that team? Obviously, you've got Cripps there with the captaincy. Who do you see? I think it's Cripps and Walsh, isn't it? It's co-captains this season.
Doherty as well. I'm not sure if he
Doherty,
still holds the captaincy, but it'll be really good to have him back this year.
Yeah.
No, I think you nailed it. Certainly Cripps and Walsh leading that midfield. But one guy that I see as having a potential breakout season is Matt Kennedy as well, stepping up in that midfield. Had a really good back half of the season where he got those opportunities. He was in and out of the team last year in 2021 for the first half of the year. Second half cemented his spot, a lot of 20-plus disposal games, a good inside midfielder. And I like the combination of Michael Voss with Kennedy because Voss has done a really good job at Port Adelaide, as you'd know, Taylor, with those inside midfielders. Not just with the established stars in Boak and Ebert, but, Pal Pepper coming through, Zach Butters as well. He's been really good for their development. So I can see him stepping up in that midfield and playing a big role. He's one for me that I think is a real chance to have a big year this year.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do you see Voss really? Do you think he's going to take a while to really get this team together, or do you think they can hit the ground running with Voss?
I think they'll take time. That's why I had them ranked not in the finals, just because I think first year coach, it's always tough to come in and cement your role straight away. The fact that Voss has already got the senior coach experience at Brisbane does help, certainly. But I do think they're going to take a little time to gel under him, which is why I certainly see them in that group contending for finals, but I don't have them there. Not yet. I think there's certainly a good chance to get there next year, and they might surprise me and get there this year, and I'd be glad to see it. But I think just settling in under Voss is probably my biggest concern for the year and the style that he's going to bring to the team.
Yep. Looking at our usual segments with these teams, all Australians, who do you see really taking their game to the next level for Carlton?
Well, they've got genuine A-grade talent across the park. So they've got a few names. We mentioned Jacob Wiedering earlier. I think that he will get there this year. He will get the All-Australian nod as the full-back if he manages to play a full season. So certainly he's there. Patrick Cripps looks shredded, by the way. Looks like he's really slimmed down in the off-season. I don't know if you boys have seen it, but he looks like he might have really increased that running capacity and might be getting a bit more outside ball. So he's certainly a chance. Sam Walsh, if he comes back from the injury early, would be a chance at an All-Australian. But if you said 4 to 6 weeks, that's really going to make it a bit hard. And then you look up front, Harry McKay was All-Australian full forward last year, leading goal kicker for the Coleman medal. If he does that again, he's All-Australian again. And you look across the competition at key forwards and who's the number one key forward in the competition. It's actually quite hard to pinpoint someone. And Harry McKay, obviously, is the Coleman medalist from last year. Probably has a chance this year to put his hand up and stamp his authority as the number one key forward in the competition.
Steve, do you see Harry McKay backing up his Coleman medal this year, or do you reckon he goes through a bit of a decline?
I must admit I don't know too much about him. Carlton are a bit of a team I don't know a great deal about, but obviously I know the fact that he won the Coleman last year, so there's no reason why he can't. He obviously won it because he's a good player and can kick goals. And just sitting here listening to what you boys have said, like adding a bit of depth around in their squad and in their midfield and stuff like that. There's sounds like there's plenty of talent there to feed him the ball. So as long as he can put the ball between the big sticks, then why not?
Yeah. Harry McKay, he will be expected to form a dynamic duo of sorts with another guy who's experienced a lot of injuries throughout the last couple of years. Charlie Curnow, he looks like he's really ripping it up, as we like to, and as everyone in the media likes to say, burning up the track. He does look like he's raring to go this year. BT, where do you think Curnow sits? What's a pass mark for him this year?
I think first he needs to stay in the park. I think that's massive. If he can say then he can take that second defender and then you can push him up the ground, you can isolate Harry McKay, and you have these smaller guys around him. I think he's one of the more important, players for them. I mean, a few years ago when he played nearly all the games, he looked the goods, and if he could stay in the park, he was going to be a top forward. If he can stay injury-free, he's got the talent. But I think structure-wise, he's one of the most important players for the whole Carlton team. If he can stay in the park and maybe kick his 2 goals a game or whatnot, he doesn't even need to do that, I don't think. With having Harry McKay at full forward, you can rely on him to kick your 3-4 nearly every game, I think. And then have your pinch hitters, your smalls, and your midfielders and whatnot to chip in there, and then get you 2 from Curnow. I think that's that will do enough for him to win enough games to make finals. Personally, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think there's enough role players in that forward line, like we spoke about. Josh Honey, he really come into his own towards the end of the season. He's going to be another guy who they'll look to get a lot of growth out of. Josh, your breakout player for Carlton, who did you see that as?
Yeah, so I did say Matt Kennedy a little bit earlier.
Oh, Matt Kennedy, yes, you did.
I do think that he's going to go really well under Michael Voss. Hopefully he gets the opportunities to start the season, because it is as we said, it is quite a stacked midfield group now, obviously with the additions of Cerra and Hewitt. So, look, I hope he gets the rotation through there. But if he gets those opportunities, I can see him having a real breakout year this year. It is a good list. It is a good list, I will say, Tazza.
Yeah, that the balance. They got guys in there like Zach Williams. I mean, where's his best position? He's promised inside mid-time.
They've got to play him on the wing, don't they? They've got to get him up the field and try and use those foot skills, I think.
Yeah. It was obviously.
You've even got Sard and those kind of guys that are going to be using the ball at the back half as well. So it's tough to place him.
Yeah, he obviously played really good football off halfback for the Giants. Went into the guts sparingly, and it was quite decent. But obviously, the lure of a bit of cash and some mid-time, it just hasn't quite worked out for him. I think the way he would have liked it. Do you find that he could be under the pump this season to perform?
I think he will. He's not under the pump to lose his spot on the list, because he's obviously come in on a longer term deal, but he does have to find a role, because there's a lot of, as I was saying, there's a lot of similar guys that play that rebounding halfback role for the Blues, and Doherty coming back as well. I mean, is he going to play up the ground? Is he going to play off halfback as well? So I mean, you've got 3 guys there that really do a similar role. Zach Williams will be a hard one to place, but I do have a couple other guys I thought would be under the pump. Mitch McGovern is one who he has really struggled since coming across from Adelaide to find a role in the team. I mean, does he play forward? Does he play back? He's obviously spent a bit of time forward and it hasn't really worked for him. I can see him going back this year and trying to find that niche as an intercepting defender, particularly with Marchbank out to start the year. I think it would be a good move to swing McGovern back, get him some time down there, give him a defined role, and say, look, you got 4 weeks. This is what we want you to do, and see how that goes. Because he reads the footy well. He's got a good footy brain. If you can put him in areas to succeed, then I think he'll be a good player for them. So he's one guy that I think is under the pump. Still does have 2 years to go on his contract. But But I think the main guy that I've got under the pump is a guy that is out of contract at the end of this year. Pick 3 in the draft 2017. Paddy Dow has really struggled to make an impact in the last few years. Did have a really serious injury at the start of his career and just hasn't really come back since then. Struggling to make an impact in terms of going in and getting the footy and showing a want to be there. He's been publicly criticised a lot and just has not found a role in the team. So he's a guy that if he, new coach coming in, if he doesn't get on Michael Voss's good side early, he could be done with the Blues at the end of this year.
Yeah, I think you're correct there. Paddy Dow was afforded many opportunities in that Carlton midfield last year. He was given plenty of centre bounce attendances. I know in the fantasy world, he was very much talked about as a cash cow. The role was right there, and he just could not grab it with both hands. And with the additions in the midfield, I mean, it's only going to get harder for him. I think he may have missed the boat, in my opinion. I think his chance was last year and he didn't grab it, and I think that's why they have invested so heavily in guys like Cerra and Hewitt to come into that midfield. So, I like your picks there. And I like McGovern too, because obviously with the loss of Liam Jones, it really does create a hole. And I feel like, with the size and his marking ability, he can fill a void there.
Yeah, for sure. And they're going to have to find someone. They've got a couple of guys there that could play that second key defender role. I mean, Oscar McDonald, he was brought in last year. He can certainly do the role. I think Young as well was recruited this off-season as a key defender, so he might be given some opportunities. But I like giving McGovern a go, seeing how he goes. And even if he's not that number 2 key defender, if he's that third intercepting tool that can just drift across in space, I think that's a role that he could fill quite well for Carlton this year.
Absolutely. BT, do you have any extra thoughts on Carlton?
On the McGovern thing, I can see if Liam Jones if he was still playing, different story completely. But I think McGovern, if he plays up forward, being a third tall, and he doesn't have that second best defender, he has the third best. I think that's going to help him a lot there. Playing behind Harry McKay and Charlie Curnow up there, I think.
But who does he push out? Does he push out Jack Silvani?
No, I think personally, I think Silvani's a chance to make the 40-man All-Australian.
That's a big call.
I've got high hopes. His second half of the season, he's a very good player. I like that high half forward type player. Someone, maybe a Josh Honey, maybe if they want to play 3 talls type. I know Silvani can play kind of tall, but I think he's going to be playing more pushing up the ground type player. He is anyway. But it all depends on how they want to structure up. But I think he has to play down defence purely because they lack that height down there and they need someone. He just needs to give his brother a call and ask him for a few tips.
Yeah, not a problem there. Jez has been doing it for a long time, 4-time All-Australian. So, certainly. But I think, it's Carlton don't really want to line up too tall. I mean, the other question is, do they play 2 rucks? They've got 2 guys that legitimately can play ruck with, Mr. Worldwide and Tom De Koning really showed some signs last year as well. So, they got some decisions to make there. I don't think you can play them both if you're playing, 4 talls in the forward line as well. I think it just throws the balance off way too much there.
Yeah, depending on obviously Curnow's fitness, McKay, there's just isn't any room for an extra tall. And I mean, Pitnet does a decent job by himself. He's by no means a top ruckman, but I think he's serviceable. But saying that, they are going to have to get minutes into Tom De Koning because he's a star. Well, he's a very serviceable player in the making. We haven't seen enough of him to call him he is the future. Exactly. Yeah, it'd be an interesting one because I mean Pitnet's not exactly a I shouldn't make too many claims about ages because I know we did get one wrong in a previous podcast. But honestly, I don't think Pitnet is a spring chicken. I think he's been around for a while. So they are going to have to start putting some time into deconning.
And yes, Luke Brown is 29 years old, Taylor. Just throwing that one out there.
Yeah, got roasted for that one, but there you go. That's all cleared up.
If you haven't seen that, go check out the Adelaide video. We were pretty happy with our call of Adelaide finishing bottom 4, but the Adelaide fans weren't too happy and were very quick to pick up on a couple of poor calls on our part as well. So make sure you go and check that one out. It's some good viewing and some good reading if you want to check out the comments of that video.
Definitely. On that, I think we've covered quite a fair bit on Carlton. Does anyone have any extra comments they want to add?
Well, I've got one.
Yes.
If you're playing Lockie Plowman in your defence, you deserve to finish bottom 4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Fair call. Fair
A
call.
bit harsh.
He's a spud. He's an absolute spud. He's more of a spud than Bailey Williams.
Is Bailey Williams really that bad? We don't want to get off topic here, but I thought he was quite good.
He goes okay. There's probably worse players out there, but when you're comparing it to someone like a Nanui, then yeah, he's a spud.
Yeah. Well, that'll wrap it up for Carlton today. Stay tuned. We will be previewing the Richmond Tigers in our 10th spot when we return. So thanks, boys. Thanks for chatting.
Cheers.
See ya.